Hi, this is Diane from Bolan-Beaty Boogie. Some big news is that Marc is working in spirit on a new show. Not a new show, but it's more a collection of art. And I think we talked about it a little bit last week. But he's showing me more and more what he's developing. He's just kind of in the beginning of it. He's shown me, it's kind of like installations or, but it's Marc. Like he did as Marc when he was a singer, of course, or an artist, interacting with the audience, but he might not be there personally, if that makes any sense. But he's shown me one thing that he's done, and it's going to be a big event. And I know David Bowie's coming, but he's still got a ways to go. But every time I see him or speak to him, he's working on something new. And I'm doing my best to kind of download the information, and because he showed me one and I was like, wait a second. And so he had to keep downloading the information until I really got what he was saying. But anyway, that will be coming up whenever, I think we're going to do a special show whenever that is up and running in spirit, and maybe describe some of the things that he's doing there. For today's show, we were going to do something about Marc's art show, but it's just not there yet. So for today's show, I had a lot of questions that I wanted to ask Spirit, and so Marc worked them into the show just about, because like he said, I think on this show, it's always mind-blowing when I think about everything, there is no time and everything's happening all at once. And so I started asking, okay, well, how is this life affecting this life, or does it not? How much is my present life working with, because I am working with my spirit life, spirit self right now, how much is that affecting this life? And basically, I just had some questions, and so Marc always says, if I have the questions, maybe somebody else on Earth has them as well. So I hope you like the show, and we'll see you again soon. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Yep. It's me, it's Marc. Welcome to the show. Again, I am Marc Bolan, or the spirit energy of who used to be Marc Bolan. Part of the spirit energy, and I am here with some friends in the studio, spirit studio, and yeah, let's start the show. Okay, so Diane has made a request, kind of. She's been working a lot with her spirit self, okay, and I think that that was last week's show. How to consciously co-create with your spirit self. Okay. Yep. So she's been working closely, or developing a closer working relationship, or a relationship with her spirit self. Okay. And then they got talking about, okay, well, what about, since I'm starting, I got that, I'm starting there. Since time is linear, okay, so everything's happening at the same time, okay, and this is a concept, and Diane struggles with this, and it is more difficult when you're in a physical body, okay, because you're so used to looking at things from from a different perspective. The morning starts, the day ends, but no, that's not how the spirit world works, or that's not how the astral world works. So everything's happening at once, okay? So Diane said, well, if everything's happening at once, how are my, past lives, what you would consider a past life, interrelated, if at all, to any future physical life I might have, and how is that all affected by my spirit self? Okay. Yep. Interesting questions. So let's look into those. Okay. What do we have? Any guests? We might, if they show up. I'm not seeing any sign of them, but they might show up, and if they do, then we will, of course, invite them on to the show. Okay. We got some scouts here, but I don't think we're going to, no. I don't think we're going to be traveling, but they're here. Okay. So let's look at this. And where do we want to start? Where do we want to start? Okay. Well, let's start with your, current physical self. Okay. And when I say current, it's to give you kind of a place to put your mind or your brain. Okay. Because if all time is happening at once, or no, there is no time and everything is happening at once, but it's just easier to say, okay, this current physical life versus a past or future. Okay. Okay. So, we've talked before about, yeah. So there is, okay. Well, there's just so much information. It's really hard to pick a starting point. And I think it's really interesting information. And I don't know if a lot of other spirits talk about this, but here we go. Here we go. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So you have, yeah, the working relationship you have with your spirit self is going to be usually, yeah, and this is all going to be usual because everyone's going to be different, but that's pretty much going to be the strongest. So any past life or any future life that you might be leading somewhere is all going to be drawn back to that spirit self. Okay, that's kind of like how could we say that? What would they say nowadays? The CEO, is that, yeah, the CEO of who you are. Okay, and so you were going to be, and we've heard this before too, and it is true. There's like tentacles, right, or branches of trees, if you want to use that that reference, that connect you to your spirit self. Okay, and that is where the hub, or where everything's happening. What? Oh, no, let's get back to that later. Okay, they're asking me, do I want to say anything about any of this? Did I feel any of this or know any of this when I was Marc? But let's get back to that later, maybe, if we have time. Okay, yep. Yeah, because there's so much information. Okay, so yes, so all your lives, and yeah, and that's what's interesting too, because a past life is going to be different energy than the current life you're leading or any future lives. Okay, but they're all affected. Yes. They're all affected by what you're all doing. Now, yeah, well, some may argue with that, but it's true. It may not have, for instance, it's all in what you plan. A future life that you might be leading now or living now somewhere may not be as affected by a past life you lived on Earth thousands of years ago. No. It's going to be diluted. It's probably going to be diluted unless there's something from that past life that you really want to work on or change or address, okay? Or look at, right. So that's a possibility. That's a big possibility. But it's all in, but it's all coming back to your spirit self, okay? Your spirit self is calling all the shots, basically, so to speak. And then you're coming down, because your spirit self has a lot to handle. Because if you think about it, if everything's happening at once, your spirit self, let's say, it's like I said, the energy sometimes gets diluted, but the spirit self knows all of the past lives, all of the future lives, and any current lives that you're leading. And yes, you could be leading, well, if you think about parallel universes and things like that, which of course do exist, you could have lives on those as well. Okay, so it's as much as your spirit self can handle, really. Like I said, if it's not in current time, well, everything's in current time. See, yeah, that's why it gets, but in spirit, you work all this out. Okay, you work all this out, and you can, you have help. You have help. Okay, but you're used to it. Okay, it sounds overwhelming right now, but in spirit, this is who you are. This is what you are used to doing. Yeah, and you take breaks. You take breaks from, yeah. So if you want to think about it like this, what you would consider any current life that you're leading is probably going to be the most dominant. And so that's what you're going to work with the most, right? But there are other aspects of your spirit self that are helping the other lives as well. Right. But for you, yeah, let's just focus on who you are right now, and whoever is listening to this and watching and listening to this video. Okay. Now let's look at past lives. Okay. Yeah. So let's say, and everyone has this, the kind of deja vu thing where you're walking down the street, we've talked about this before, or you've met somebody for the first time and both seem really familiar. Yeah, you met somebody and you're like, well, I don't recognize you, but your energy, and you don't know, you just think, okay, this person feels familiar, but, and then of course, if you it could be their energy. You've had a past life with them, and this person could or could not turn out to be an important person in your life. They could just say hi, bye, and you never see them again, right? Yeah. Diane has a neighbor up the street a ways, and he's a past life spirit, and she sees him walking his dog, but she they have, they've said hi or whatever, and she's like, oh, he doesn't know. Well, he might, but they don't really have conversations, but for some reason he's there, right? For some reason he's there, and she recognizes him. So things like that happen all the time to people, and they just kind of write it off and say, oh, well. And other times you don't. Other times you marry them, or you have a relationship with them, or whatever you want to do. And that, oh, what? Yeah, that can be. And if any type of breakup happens, it could be, well, usually they're not very nice, but it could be based on maybe you've had past experiences with them before, and it's really, really profound. Okay. So yeah. So that happens. Okay. Your past lives. So how much do past lives affect, let's just say past lives, okay, affect your current life? Okay. Especially if they're all happening at once. Can you change them midway, so to speak? Yeah, that was a question Diane had. Let's say she lived a life in 18th century France, and if that's happening now with her current life, how are they affecting each other? Well, you all have, you have different goals, and you have different strategies and different things those lives are wanting to obtain or experience, right? So, and some could be very similar. Some could be very similar. Maybe you're trying to overcome addiction, or you're trying to have a happy love life, something like that. So you could have similar ones. You could have completely different ones. Maybe, So, but in general, even though they're coming from the main source, so to speak, of your spirit self, in general, it's not going to be too much overlapping. Because it would just be too confusing. Now you could have obviously there's the same energy stemming from the spirit self, but in general, this could be different for everybody. But in general, you're just going to you're going to have separate kind of branches, so to speak. Well, you are going to have separate branches, but the branches, if you think about a tree and the wind happens and the branches connect once in a while, or there's a spark or a lightning or something like that, and the branches connect, then you can have another one of those deja vu moments when you say, oh my gosh, I just got a flash of something that doesn't make any sense. I didn't experience in this life. And then it could be something like that happening, or you could just be flashing back to that life. But this is one way that it can happen. So they're not there. So let's say you're in 18th century France, and you're you could say let's say you're being guillotined or something like that, or you're leading up to it. It's very traumatic. Well, I know I can say it because it happened to me. Let's say, it's very traumatic. Are you going to be sensing that in your current life? Probably not. Because there are protections. Okay, you've set up protections. You don't want to be experiencing pain in more places than you need to. I mean, you don't, unless that's for some reason you want to experience pain. Right. But in general, you're going to keep those separate, because, if you look at it, the life you're leading now, let's say Diane, she's set up wanting to be Diane, and to experience things as Diane. So she's not going to necessarily want to be experiencing painful things from the life that she's leading in 18th century France. Yeah, unless you want to. But it would be rare. I would say, wouldn't you say it? Yeah. We're saying it would be kind of rare, and also it is overwhelming. It would be too much for everyone to keep track of, even though your spirit self can do it because it is doing it. Okay, So you have a lot of energy in spirit. Okay, Diane just asked her spirit self not too long ago, how much energy. Her spirit self said that 30% of her spirit energy is in spirit, and then 70% is leading these lives, or specifically Diane. And if you think about it, in general, it's no, that's pretty common. That's pretty common. You want to keep some, yeah. Well, or you could do 50-50. You could do 50-50. And she asked, well, okay, I'm very energetic and I'm always bouncing about the place. Does that have anything to do with the energy that I'm bringing down from spirit? And the answer was affirmative. Yep, 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 yep. Yeah, so if you're thinking maybe you're a little bit more lackluster and maybe you don't have that much energy, could it be vitamins, or could it be the fact that you didn't bring very much energy down from spirit? It could be a combination of both, actually. And well, yeah, it's very well monitored as well. It's monitored. You can say, okay, I think I'm going to need this much energy, and I'm going to reserve some energy for other things. And you have to save energy in your spirit self, because you're still running that life or that existence as well. But then you're saying, okay, I'm going to give 70% to these other lives that I'm leading. Okay, right. Okay, so let's think about this. What if, okay, the 18th century life that you were leading, okay, that body is physically gone, okay, in some way, but it's still existing in others. But does that spirit self still have to send it energy? Good question, right? Good question. To some extent, yes. Okay, because everything is in current time, right? Like, as I've been saying, everything is I am in current time in spirit, right? Right. So I don't dwell. Okay, I don't dwell. Like, I don't think about being Marc Bolan. Well, I think about it once in a while. I think about it, but it's not uppermost in my. I can't really say mind, but it's not uppermost in my thoughts. Okay, it's not uppermost. Well, I guess I can say mind, but not brain, right? No brain. But it's not uppermost in my thoughts, okay? Because I'm focused on the current life that I'm leading in spirit, and it's a very busy life. It's a very busy life. So I'm focused on that. I'm in current time, okay? But it's not to say, of course, that I didn't lead a physical life on Earth as Marc Bolan. Right. And I have very, very, very fond memories of being Marc, but it's not what I think about. No. And when you go back into spirit, for instance, yes, I'm very, 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 very good friends with David Bowie, who, well, he really isn't David Bowie anymore. And we see each other a fair amount, even though he's usually very busy. But we don't dwell on our relationship as David Bowie and Marc Bolan. No, because we're because we have a relationship in spirit, right? Does that make sense? Yep. So, okay, so that's that. And let's look at, okay, any future. Yeah, future. Okay, now when Diane thinks of future, life, she thinks of herself maybe in a spacesuit or really far advanced. And it could just be because, and her friend Ruby is in a future life right now. And she is on a ship, but she's not technically, well, she is in kind of a spacesuit type thing, isn't she? Yeah. But she's not, she's not really, well, yeah. Well, we'll talk about that later. Okay. So, yeah, it could be that Diane is just planning, she knows that she's just planning a life very, very, very far in the future from the one she's living right now, right? So it could be that she's seeing that, or it could just be that, that's how, a lot of people would view it. If they were thinking, okay, I think I'm gonna have some future physical lives. I mean, do humans really think about that a lot? Maybe some. Did I as Marc? Let's look at that. Well, I knew that I had previous lives. I knew that I would have future lives, and I knew I had a spirit life. Yep. And it all fascinated me, and I did want to learn as much as possible about it. Did I dwell on it? What? Oh, yeah. Diane said she thought that most people usually focus more on a past life. Yeah, a past life than a future life. But let's look into future lives, okay? So let's look at the branch that says future life, okay? Yeah. So, good question. So they're saying, okay, even though things are happening at the same time, you would think maybe that you've learned something, if you want to learn something from the current life you're leading to the future life. So does that make sense? Yeah. So if you're leading a future life, do many of you think, oh, well, I'm hoping to be, or I know that I'm going to be more evolved, smarter, uh, uh, yeah, have a broader base of knowledge, maybe be spiritually more knowledgeable, or adapt to talking with other spirits, or how does that work? How more highly evolved? Okay, yeah, is that true? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Well, it could be. It could be and it could not be. It all depends on you. Okay. And that's what Diane and I bring up a lot. Okay. How powerful you are as a creator and all the decisions that you can make. But it's not that you're making them all by yourself necessarily. There's a vast network of specialists. And that sounds too clinical, doesn't it? Of experts, let's say, that can help you plan all this out. So yeah, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Okay, so let's say, okay, well, let's just use Diane as an example. Okay, she's, well, I think we're both going to take breaks from physical lives for a while after Diane's done with this one. We're going to travel. Going to travel. I love to travel. Okay, going to travel a lot. But let's say, okay, you're going to have a future life. Do you look, yeah, well, let's just look at the normal time, like how people look at lives at time. So she's going to say, okay, I'm planning this future life. Am I going to look at the life as Diane? Am I going to look at the 18th century life and see, what do I want to do the same? What do I want to do differently? Am I going to have different goals? Probably to all of those things. Because you want to do something new. You want to do something new. You don't want to do the same thing probably over. But there is, yeah, because we've talked to some celebrity lives, and yeah, a few of them have had addiction problems, and a lot of that stems from the fact that they're usually very sensitive souls, and sometimes you don't realize how harsh the earth can be, or how harsh a physical life can be, and then you come down and you're saying, I can't handle this. I want to go back to spirit, and you find a way to do it. Right. Or so let's say you've had a couple of lives of that, and so you get into this future life, or you're planning this future life, and you're like, I didn't really get over that. I didn't really accomplish not. Yeah, maybe you want to say, okay, well, I don't want to do that this physical life. I want to be prepared. I want to have a fulfilling life, and I want to be well, there's not weak or strong necessarily, but let's say you want to just brace yourself a little better and overcome that, because in the past couple of lives, maybe you tried and it didn't work. You really got down there and you said, yep. So then, so how can you do that? You can. Okay, you can get help to do that. Okay, so let's say you're saying, okay, well, maybe I didn't have a healthy body, right, or maybe I didn't fall in love, or something like that. So you make plans, and you can say, okay, well, yeah, I'm going to change this from a certain life that maybe I wasn't happy with. And then you can say, okay, well, I'm gonna really focus on this. Okay, yeah, because when you come into a physical life, you have maybe how many do you think? 3 to 5 really highlights, or things that you want to accomplish. Okay, maybe you wanted children or something, and you didn't have children the last time, or something. Something like that. Or yeah, you want to be a rock star. Yeah, something like that. Well, I don't think that doesn't happen to too many people, but luckily, yeah, it did happen to me. Yep. Okay, so let's say that you're in this future life and you're planning it, and then you get down. Yeah, and and if you think about a future life, are you going to do it on Earth? That type of thing. Yeah. There's going to be more inhabitable spaces, ships, planets, and things like that. So you'll have to think about that when the time comes. Less lives are going to be lived on Earth, that's for sure, because the planet is being, it's being, I wouldn't call, decimated. Humans are not treating the planet well. Let's just say that. Okay. So a future life, Earth may not be an option. Okay. So you're leading this future life. So you can. This is why you're leading all these lives, is because you can create new versions of yourself, as we say a lot. But and it's fun. It's fun for one. It's fun for one, and it's a challenge. It's a challenge for yourself, and it's something that you feel that you can accomplish. Right, right. And it's an experience, and we're all of us, every single minute are experiencing a new experience. That's profound. That's profound. Yep, yep, yep. Okay. Yeah. So let's just say this, okay, to end up here a little bit. It's all interrelated. All these lives, they're all important, as equally as important. They're all interrelated between each other. There may not be as much emphasis in one life versus another, but they're all interrelated. You're all working from the same hub. Now, let's look at that, because let's say, there could be other energies that come into your space, though. Okay. And this is kind of a crazy concept. So you've got this spirit energy, but you can bring in other energies to help you with a life. Okay. They may not be the most predominant one, but I did as Marc. I had some extra energy coming in. Because for whatever reasons I had at the time, I wanted to have that. I didn't need it. I wanted to have it. But you can do that. You can do that. And what type of energies would they be? They could be another, because you do have other energies in your space. Okay, right now, as you're, and no, not to alarm anybody by any means, but you do, if you think about it, you have, maybe your parents' experiences, you have maybe a religious, energy in your space. You have other energies in your space. Diane tries as much when she does her meditations, and this is what she's learned, is to get that energy out of her space. So she's running her body and her energy on as much of her energy as she can. Now, that doesn't mean that if she's allowed other energies to come in to help with this this life as Diane, she could kick those out at some point, but she may or may not, depending on if she wants them to help her in this life, right? And then she also has her spirit's guide helping her. So there's a lot of help. There's a lot of assistance if you want to go looking for it. Okay. Is time about running out? Yep. Okay, yeah. So I think I summed up pretty well, didn't I? Yep. It's all interrelated, but it may not be, one life may not be affecting the other one as much as you may think, or it could be depending on what you want to plan. Yep. Okay, I think that's about it for today's show. If anyone has any questions, go ahead and send them to me, and I will do my best to send you a reply back. Okay. I do. I do filter out a lot of energy that comes my way, because there's a lot. Even though I've been gone from the earth for a while, there is. Usually it doesn't get to me. Usually it doesn't get to me because it's too diluted, because it could just be somebody listening to my music, and I'm not going to really, if I want to look at that energy, I can. But once in a while somebody asks me a question. For the spirit Marc, and sometimes I hear, and I will try to give a reply. Okay. Thanks everybody for coming on the show. I will say goodbye for now from everyone in the studio, as well as myself, Marc, and we will be back on the show soon.